Good morning or good afternoon. Today we'll be watching a Quizzette video on 622. Right here it says standard 7th grade, but I only copied a few questions from 7th grade, which are number 5 and number 2, but I made them a lot easier, so technically it's still 6th grade level. The Quizzette right here says week 16, but it's actually week, I don't even know what week it is in terms of the school year, but in my class, I'm treating it as if it were week 22, so that's why it's 622. Please write your last name, comma, first name. Today's date, I think is the 3rd. And then circle your class color. Today I'll say I'm red. All right, so Monday number 1 says x plus 9 equals 18. It doesn't really give you an instruction. I will tell you what the instructions are. It's just to solve for x or find the mystery number. In this case, it's x. So we're going to solve for x. You could probably think to yourself, 9 plus 9 is 18, so x must equal 9. But I actually want you to know the steps. So you're trying to isolate that variable. You're trying to keep it, get it alone on one side of the equation. The thing that's bothering it or keeping it from being by itself is that plus 9. So you would have to do the inverse operation, which is minus 9. Or you can think, what's the opposite of positive 9 or plus 9? Then that's minus 9. What I do on one side, I do to the other. This is a 0 pair, so it cancels, and I'm left with what I want. X equals 18 minus 9, and 18 minus 9 is 9. So x is equal to 9. Number 2, we're going to solve for negative 3b. Well, actually, we're going to solve for b, but negative 3b is, we're going to treat it as it's the first term, and we're not going to mess with the first term until the last step. So if you remember in your notes, I taught you DC MAM, which is just steps to help you be neat when you're solving multi-step equations. That's an 8th grade strategy. But for 7th grade, the steps are this. This is a 7th grade question right here. So the first step is to undo addition or subtraction, whatever is given to you. And then the second step is to undo multiplication or division. Okay, that little dot means multiplication. The little slash is so that we're just dividing it or separating it. So the first thing I'm going to undo is the subtraction, because I don't have any addition. So I just have subtraction, which is that minus 4. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. This is a 0 pair. So I have negative 3b equals 11 plus 4, which is 15. Now I'm going to undo multiplication or division. And right here I see that negative 3 is actually being multiplied to b. So because it's being multiplied, I'm going to do the inverse operation, which is dividing by negative 3. And what I do on one side, I have to do to the other side. Negative 3 divided by negative 3 is positive 1. So that you end up getting positive 1b as like a term. So it's like this. It's like 1b. But the same thing as writing 1b is just b. So now I have b equals negative 3 goes into 15, negative 5 times. So my answer, my mystery number, is actually negative 5. So if you can't see that, I'm going to rewrite it right here. B equals negative 5. Number 3 says find the sum equivalent to negative 5 times the quantity 2g plus 1. So this right here, I admit, after I made the copies, I'm like, this phrase is not worded in a very nice way, because if you look at number 3, it also says find the difference equivalent to blah, 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 blah. Guys, it just wants you to distribute. It's just a distributive property. So you can write something right here like distributive property. So we have negative 5 times the quantity 2g plus 1. So when you distribute a number to terms inside of a parentheses, you multiply. Negative 5 times 2g is negative 10g. And then negative 5 times 1 is negative 5. Now you could put negative 10g minus 5, or you can put negative 10g plus negative 5. But if you put that, there's just a lot going on in this one. So I would keep it as negative 10g minus 5. But both of those are the same. They're equivalent expressions. Now number 4 says add 2x plus 7 minus the quantity 4x minus 5. When you have a negative or a subtraction symbol outside of a parentheses and nothing else is there, the implication is that there's a 1 right there. Now, if you had plus 1 and you were going to multiply it to 4x and negative 5, nothing would change. But if you have a negative 1, think about this. Negative 1 times 4x is negative 4x. Negative 1 times negative 5, that's positive 5. So let's say we did have an invisible 1 over here on the first expression, and it's positive. 1 times 2x is just 2x. 1 times 7 is just 7. So nothing changed when there's a positive 1 in front. But when there's a negative 1 in front of the expression, it definitely changes the values of the expressions inside. So now we can combine that. We have 2x plus 7. So we have 2x plus 7 minus 4x plus 5. So I'm going to combine my x's, or my variables, with my variables, and my constants with my constants. So my variables, I have positive 2x and negative 4x. So I have negative 2x when I combine them. And then I have 7, positive 7 and positive 5, that is positive 12. So my expression that's equivalent to the given expression is negative 2x plus 12. And as a reminder, we want to be mathematically precise. When we write expressions, we always write the variables in alphabetical order, and then we write the constant at the end. If you forgot what the constant is, that's just the number without all the variables. Number 5. Number 5 says, solve and graph x plus 6 is less than or equal to 10. Just something I always like to do is to remind me of the less than symbol and the greater than symbol. I write them out using the actual symbols. Now, the 6th grade standard, they'll just give you something like this. X is greater than or equal to 4, and they'll have you graph it. That's the 7th grade standard. I'm sorry, the 6th grade standard. The 7th grade standard, they're going to have you solve an inequality like you would an equation, and then they're going to have you graph it. But in 7th grade, they give you harder numbers, and they give you negative coefficients, which eventually flip the inequality. But we won't learn the 7th grade fully until after our 6th grade state test, which I've already told you. But we are going to learn the 6th grade standard at a little bit of a more rigorous level. Okay, so let's solve for this. Let's solve for x as if it were an equation. I want to get x by itself on one side of the inequality. So I'm going to get rid of the 6 by subtracting it. And what I do on one side, I do to the other. This is a 0 pair, so I'm left with what I want, which is x is less than or equal to 4, because 10 minus 6 is 4. Now that I've solved it, it wants me to graph it. So the sentence says, the mystery number x, and please write this, you'll see why it benefits you. The mystery number x is less than or equal to 4. So try to make sense of this statement. The mystery number x is less than, or it can be equal to 4. So first you're going to locate 4 on the graph, which I'm looking at it right here. And you're going to put an open circle in front of 4. Now think, can the mystery number be 4? Can the mystery number be 4? And I'm looking at my statement, it says less than or equal. The mystery number could technically be 4. So because it can be 4, I'm going to shade in the circle. Now I have to shade in all the true values of x. And I'm going to shade either to the right of 4 or I'm going to shade to the left of 4. Whatever numbers are less than or equal to 4, that's the direction I'm going to shade. So I'm going to shade in the direction that's less than 4, which is to the left. All these numbers on the graph are less than 4. And I know it's not that pretty, but the point is made that the mystery number could be 4, and it could be anything on the left of 4 on the number line. And that's the 6th grade standard for you to understand that the mystery number could be more than one value if there's an inequality involved. Now here's some tricks of the trade. This is definitely not Common Core recommended, but this is something that I've had to just adjust to with my 7th graders, so I'm going to teach it to you. If you have an inequality and it has an equal sign on the bottom, the circle is going to be closed. If you have an inequality that does not have an equal sign, the circle is going to be open. The solution is going to be open because that means that the mystery number could never be the actual number, right? And then you can extend the arrow. If the variable is on the left side and the number is on the right side, you can extend this, and you're going to notice that this is an arrow pointing in the left direction. So you don't really have to, it's kind of sad, but you don't have to fully understand what's going on, and these tricks will work for you. That's why I don't like teaching it, but for some of you, it helps you get started, all right? So the solution in this case, if I was looking at x is less than or equal to 4, I would automatically know, oh, it's a closed circle, and it's pointing to the left, so I'm going to shade to the left. And that's a strategy you can use to kind of help you understand the sentence.